I identified just a whole bunch of sinful stuff just in this one song.
My left stroke just went viral. Right stroke, little baby.
Come on, man. What they talking about, man?
So who want to be SZA?
Kendrick Lamar, I also saw, had performed with a crown of thorns covered in blood, and he said, "Oh, I'm doing this to protest women losing right to have an abortion."
Godspeed for women's rights. They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights. They judge you, they judge Christ. Godspeed for women's rights.
Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. What is that? What is that talking about? I mean, what does that even mean? And why don't you shut up about God, Kendrick Lamar? Why don't you shut up about Jesus Christ? Why don't you shut your mouth and not take the name of the Lord your God in vain?
Shut up, bitch.
Nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo.
Hey everybody, Pastor Steven Anderson here from Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona. I'm not going to sit here and refute all of the wild allegations that have come against me about my child rearing.
After the great rap war of 2024 and directly following the Pop-Out concert, the guy that's in every fucking commercial now, Snoop Dogg, dubbed Kendrick Lamar the King of the West Coast.
And K-Dot, you are the King of the West. That's the kind of shit kings do. We unite.
The King of the West Coast is a title only a few rappers have ever held, with even fewer having held it as long as Kendrick Lamar. With everything he's accomplished in his career, you can make the argument that he's the greatest rapper of all time. In not just what he's achieved, but with his actual music, and the way it has the ability to resonate with people.
Look at that sweatshirt. Stand up, brother, right here. Stand up. God is telling me to say, Mustard! Sometimes you just got to scream, Mustard! You got to tell that devil they not like us.
But with so many peaks in his career, it's hard to pinpoint when exactly he was at the height of it. Was it after he released Good Kid, Mad City? It's arguably his best album with a clear mix of songs that you can put on after hotboxing your car, or while you're at a party, or if you're playing GTA 5 and you tune into Radio Los Santos. Was it after he released To Pimp a Butterfly? An album that proved he was much more than your typical rapper, and instead, someone who's able to do meta commentary on very complex issues, while still making your head bop. He was like the Black Messiah for a while. He had people doing a cappella to his songs during protests, especially during the Black Lives Matter movement, the George Floyd protests, and the Charleston church shootings. Was it after he released Damn, his most commercially successful album? Was it after he won a Pulitzer Prize? Or when he got his 22nd Grammy? Or imagine what a real Snooze Fest at J. Cole halftime show would have been like. Or imagine Drake producing the next Black Panther soundtrack. It just wouldn't make sense. There was never a real top three. It was Kendrick Lamar and the two other guys. But in the year 2011, while still early into their careers, each of them dropped an album that was monumental in setting up their future success.
J. Cole, did you tell Dr. Dre about Kendrick?
Who told you that? Who gave you that piece of information?
Well, you are J. Cole. We have to know.
Being the newest signee to Jay-Z, J. Cole's Cole World, The Sideline Story was one of the most anticipated releases of that year, with it even debuting at #1 on the US Billboard 200. If his previous mixtapes didn't catch your attention, which, let's be honest, I don't blame you, this one definitely did. It's the underdog story. He's trying to prove himself as a rapper, which he successfully did. landing himself a nomination as the Best New Artist at the next year's Grammys.
You just got nominated for the Grammy. And I was like, what? You know, I could hear him through the door yelling that. I just had to wake up. Like, that was a good feeling. I ain't win no.
Drake's Take Care was, if not, the greatest album he's ever made. If he even made it, that is. But still, that's not to discredit how influential it became. Rappers in the past have been successful blending in R&B with rap, but Drake proved there's no reason to stay on only one side of that board. He led the way for future artists like Bryson Tiller, Black, A Boogie, and Trippie Redd to start singing into their verses, which all really started with Take Care taking off. If you call back to that era, good music was at its peak. Then there was Young Money, then ASAP Mob, the Raider Clan, Odd Future, and finally, the Black Hippie Group.
Kendrick, Black Hippie, Mike Will. You know what I'm saying? All, you know what I'm saying? Black Hippie, man. Control. I've been getting asked about that so many times, and I'm just hating, basically. I'm hating because I didn't write it. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, why I didn't write that verse? So I'm just hating. That. I'm better.
They were best known for starting the high power movement. It was kind of like a pseudo religion. But I think it's best if I save that for a future video on the Black Hippie era itself. Now, quick tangent, I am not a Kendrick Lamar channel, but the algorithm thinks I am, and that's cool and all, but I also like posting videos about wild, wacky stories and things I find interesting. Now, I do want to make the Black Hippie video itself, but I've also been itching to make a video about one of the strangest events in hip-hop history that resulted in about 7 people getting arrested. If either of those sound interesting to you, please subscribe, and let me know down in the comments which one you'd rather see first. But anyway, back to the topic. On July 2nd of 2011, Kendrick Lamar released what can only be considered his most underrated album, Section 80. Although it had some hits like ADHD and High Power, it didn't gain nearly as much mainstream attention as the other two did. But he showed glimpses of his ability to rap with a purpose. Weaved into his lyrics about drugs, sex, and money were the real struggles of what it was like growing up in Section 80 housing, the effects of the Ronald Reagan administration, systemic racism, the crack epidemic, drug abuse, and his own morality. He had a powerful way of storytelling. He had this ability to make you vividly imagine the hardships of what African Americans were going through, while also recognizing the systems put in place that perpetuated those struggles.
One of the songs, Reagan era and all this stuff. So how did Reaganomics and Reagan's politics end up affecting where you come from Compton?
Truthfully, you know, it was just the title, just the Ronald Reagan era. Because, you know, when I say Ronald Reagan era, I'm talking about his era of being the president. That was the era where a lot of, you know, kids in my generation, parents were strung out on crack. Crack epidemic came in real heavy and strong. So a lot of these kids that I grew up with didn't have their moms and pops, they live with their grandma. You know, and that's the Ronald Reagan era.
While it largely went unnoticed by the mainstream media, those who were tuned into hip-hop knew that he'd soon become a star. I mean, have you listened to Keisha's song and then looked at the lyrics? First you're vibing, you're like, oh shit, what's this? And now you're all depressed. But then cut to rigor mortis, and then you're just vibing again saying,
He did. Yep. Amen. I know. He did. For sure. Amen. Amen.
Other than it being his first introduction to the Billboard 200, it was this album that truly set the waves of him eventually becoming the king of the West Coast. There was really no one else doing it like him back then, other than Tyler the Creator, but everyone thought he was from Yonkers and also weird. And
Tiger! Tiger! Huh? Tiger had the biggest... Man, get the fuck out of here, nigga!
in late October of 2024, Caitlin Greenidge of Harper's Bazaar got an exclusive interview with both Kendrick Lamar and SZA, but it was more of a conversation between the latter two. In it, Kendrick describes the first time he allowed himself to cry. Quote, "The first time I allowed it to happen is documented, actually, on stage when Dre and Snoop and the whole West Coast was out, and they was like, 'This is the torch that we are handing off.' Dre passed me the torch and a burst of energy just came out, and I had to let it flow."
It was genuine for me, man. I had some tears come out, man. So that's real. I mean, that touched the heart for them people that I looked up my whole life to come out and embrace me and support me.
On August 19th of 2011, shortly after the release of Section 80, Kendrick Lamar was performing at the former Music Box Theater in Hollywood, California. He was joined by the Black Hippie label, with an added set by Big Sean and KC Veggies. In attendance were some of the most legendary rappers to have ever graced the mic: Snoop Dogg, Corrupt, Daz Dillinger, Warren G, Nipsey Hussle, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, and Dr. Dre.
The game is yours. It's a pleasure to be here with such a talented and motivated and fantastic young talent.
Before a guest performance by The Game, he took the mic and called Kendrick the illest rapper in the West, and said that he can flat out fucking rap.
I gotta get my shit off, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo. The illest nigga on the West right now is none other than this nigga right here. And this nigga right here can flat out fucking rap. And ain't nobody in the city, including myself, that can Kendrick Lamar.
Now, before we get into why this would become such a pivotal moment in his career, you have to first appreciate the history of the West Coast, and how it all led up to Kendrick being passed the torch. The music we know of today came from years of constant evolution, starting all the way back in the early 1970s. It sounded a lot more different than it does now. It had a lot more funk to it. It was kind of like happy rap, but it mostly caught on with the East Coast, and more so with the line dancing community. The West weren't as active around this time, but during the early 1980s, branching off the disco era, they started developing this funky electronic rap genre. And the best way I can describe the difference is like if the East Coast was more like Bruno Mars, while the West Coast was more like the Black Eyed Peas.
Dre, Dr. Dre, 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 Dr. Dre, Dr. Dre, Dr. Dre, 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 Dre.
When the 1980s rolled around, it saw the birth of two pioneering rap collectives, the world-class Wrecking Crew and the more successful Uncle Jam's Army.
Now talk to me about back in the days, man, with Uncle Jam's Army and the things you guys used to do, and just the magnitude of what Uncle Jam's brought to L.A.
Well, basically, we were, before K-Day even started happening, we was breaking records on the scene. Am I right, Lines? We was breaking records that K-Day wasn't playing. So the records was really breaking on the streets at our dances, my dances, Lonzo's dances. We was breaking all the old Sugar Hill, Profile, all the old rap before the radio was playing it. So, you know, we deserve our props for that.
Uncle Jam's Army was the first to help bring the electro rap scene into LA, followed by the world-class Wrecking Crew a few years later. Now, I can't go through the full history of West Coast hip-hop, but just know that between these two groups, we also had a few pioneers of what became gangster rap. In the world-class Wrecking Crew, they had Michelle, Dr. Dre, and DJ Yella. But the latter two were better known for being members of the rap group NWA. Then there was Uncle Jam's Army, which had Kid Frost, Egyptian Lover, and Ice-T, who many consider to be the godfather of gangster rap.
And all kinds of other junk, which aren't true. Gangs kill each other. It's a war. And now there's drugs involved, and it's real serious, it's real sad. But they have soldier mentality. They're willing to go in there and die, and they're very deep into it.
So rather than glorifying violence, what I hear you saying is that you're trying to reflect a certain kind of reality.
That's all there is to reflect. You know, I'm a realist. There's no angle. It's just real.
However, the real originator of gangster rap actually goes to Schoolie D, who you may know of if you ever watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He's the guy from the theme song. Gangster rap was like the cool new thing. It ushered in a new era of rappers who just didn't give a fuck. They were cursing, they were a little violent, but it was more like Drake's "I'll slit your throat with a razor" type of vibe, rather than King Von detailing how he murdered someone. They weren't afraid to say what people were really thinking at the time. Nobody was really saying, the NWA legitimized the West Coast hip-hop scene, and they also allowed people to start being themselves. Their debut studio album, Straight Outta Compton, is one of the reasons why your favorite rappers can now curse on a song. And under their aggressive tone were themes about the crack epidemic, racial profiling, and police brutality, which most infamously attracted the attention of a rogue agent working at the FBI.
What was the FBI letter?
We got an FBI letter. They sent the letter to Priority Records saying one guy was like, I'm, part of this department of the FBI, and we're very concerned with this record called Straight Outta Compton. You guys got a song on there called Fuck the Police, and we think this song could encourage, people to go against law enforcement, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. And basically, we'd like it if you guys took it off the shelf, you know what I'm saying?
The most notable members of the NWA were obviously Eazy-E, Ice Cube, and Dr. Dre, who all fundamentally changed West Coast hip-hop in their own ways. Eazy-E was a Compton Crip turned rapper, the frontman of the NWA, and he had a voice that set him apart from the rest of the group. But he's also the reason why rappers started making their own labels. He's who you first imagine when you think of the NWA. But rather than wanting to be a rapper, he was more of a businessman. And with his tight grip over Ruthless Records, it led to the group disbanding in 1991. Also, fun fact, so Eazy-E inspired the local Ryder from GTA San Andreas. But an even more fun fact was that Ryder is voiced by MC8, one of Compton's most wanted. You might also probably know him as the guy telling you to wake your punk ass up during that elite ass beat switch in Mad City.
Wake your punk ass up.
Ice Cube broke off from the NWA early on, but he went on to have a successful career as a solo rapper, and even goes so far as to say he was the first King of the West Coast from 1990 to around 1993. Alongside Ice-T, he was also one of the first rappers to really transition into being a Hollywood actor, starring in classics such as Boys in the Hood, Friday, Anaconda, Barbershop, Are We There Yet, and my personal favorite, 21 Jump Street.
Schmidt fuck the captain's daughter. Schmidt fuck the captain's daughter. Schmidt fuck the captain's daughter.
I will give you some daps, Schmidt. Give me some. Come on, give me some. Daps, man. Give me some. Give me some. Come on.
Out of the three, Dr. Dre probably became the most influential. He essentially shaped what West Coast music sounded like from the early 1980s to late 1990s. He started out rapping for the World Class Wrecking Crew and was undeniably the glue that held the NWA together. Then in 1991, with his bodyguard Suge Knight, he opened up Death Row Records. But more importantly, he started working with rappers like Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg, RBX, Warren G, Corrupt, and Daz Dillinger around this time. There's no downplaying the importance of Dr. Dre, 213, and the Dog Pound. When Dr. Dre released The Chronic, it was unlike anything anyone had heard before. They switched gangster rap from ruthless aggression to a more beat-focused, laid-back tone. The best way I can describe it is if you were driving a lowrider, especially one with hydraulics, this is the type of music you need to have on in order to feel like the full experience. Dr. Dre basically created the gangsta funk sound, and it was when Snoop Dogg released Doggy Style that it really took off for the rest of the 90s. They inspired other West Coast rappers like Coolio, Too Short, Warren G, and MC Hammer to start transitioning into releasing more G-Funk music.
By the way, I'm never going to be able to do it any better than what they did. This is just my version.
In terms of the way West Coast music sounded, Dr. Dre was the mastermind behind a lot of it. In the 2000s, he took on an even bigger role within hip-hop itself, creating his own label, Aftermath Entertainment, and helping shape the careers of people like Mary J. Blige, Eminem, 50 Cent, Exhibit, Busta Rhymes, Anderson .Paak, The Game, and Kendrick Lamar. He even helps you out in GTA Online.
I've got to stop holding on too tight. I've got to start putting some of these demos out that I've been working on for so many years. You have no idea how much shit I've got. But you want to hear something? Okay. This is a world premiere right here, right now.
If there's any way to describe him, Dr. Dre is a kingmaker. Whatever he touches turns platinum, and whoever he decides to help have become the legends we know of today. The best examples of this would be through Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, and Kendrick Lamar. But he also worked with one bald-headed man who once said,
We bust on bad boys, niggas fuck for life.
Well, that's symbolic, B.
But I know that's deep, bro. I don't know what it means, but it's deep.
While the West Coast was shifting towards the G-Funk era, the East Coast was shifting towards the socially conscious era, with rap groups like A Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, The Roots, Black Star, and people like Nas and Chris One starting to pop up. Both sides were definitely talking about the issues they saw, but the West Coast is more like, there's some crazy shit going on out here, but you gotta thug it out and have a fun time while doing so. The East Coast is more like, there's some crazy shit going on out here and we need to start a revolution, but we're gonna have a fun time while doing so.
Okay, my name is Tupac Shakur, and I attend Tamalpais High School, and I'm 17 years old.
Do you like being 17?
And it's like 17 is such a weird age. It's such a in the middle age. You're not 18 yet, and you're older than 16. So. But I like it. It's nice. It's like a learning stage for me.
No, that's deep, bro. I don't know what it means, but it's deep.
As a New York-based rapper, Tupac took influence from those around him, and soon became the most influential rapper to come out of the West. He had this ability to give off philosophical takes about Black liberation, social inequality, empowering women, abortions, the poverty rate, police brutality, and other issues he saw as a Black man in the streets of New York and Baltimore.
But we need help. I mean, for us to be on our own 2 feet, us meaning youth or us meaning Black people, whatever you want to take it for us to be on our own 2 feet, we do need help. Because we have been here, we have been a good friend. If you want to make it a relationship type thing, we have been there, and now we deserve our payback. It's like you got a friend that you don't never look out for.
He moved to Oakland, California around the release of Tupacalypse Now, and that's when his career really started taking off. His next studio album saw even more praise, but it was around the time he released Me Against the World where he became known as one of the best rappers of that time. Some even called him rap's first prophet, but unfortunately, he might have also been slain by rap's first super devil.
I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Now, remember how the East Coast is more socially conscious? Well, Biggie Smalls was one of the exceptions, and turned into more of a traditional gangster rapper. I can't go through the whole East Coast-West Coast feud, but the gist of it is that at some point, Biggie and Tupac were friends and even collaborators. But after Biggie signed to Bad Boy Records, it kinda all went downhill.
Oh, hey, everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Well, that's symbolic, B.
But I know that's deep, bro. I don't know what it means, but it's deep.
Around 1993, Tupac and 2 members of his team were accused of sexually abusing a woman, in particular, for making her perform oral sex on them. A day before his sentencing, he was robbed and shot 5 times while in the recording studio, and after recovering, he had the suspicion that Biggie Smalls and his manager, P. Diddy, had something to do with it.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
We're not going to get into all that, but just know that these events, along with a few arrests, changed the way he started rapping. His album Me Against the World was less an outlook on the world, but rather a very deep and introspective album about his own traumas. After this, he turned into more of an educated gangster rapper, shifting towards his more gangster persona, resulting in him trying to wage war against the entire East Coast.
You remember that, motherfucker? Because I'm the one y'all need to be worried about. Partner.
I still see your shadows in my room. Can't take back the love that I gave you. It's to the point where I love and I hate you, so I can...
In 1995, he was serving a 4.5-year sentence for the previously mentioned abuse case, but he only spent about 10 months inside due to Suge Knight, then CEO of Death Row Records, posting his bond of $1.4 million. Suge Knight also signed Tupac to Death Row, and that's where he got to meet Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. From them and his time in prison, Tupac adopted the G-Funk sound and started rapping more about being a thug than being socially conscious. He then dropped All Eyes on Me in 1996, which was undeniably his most popular album. And to compare it to modern times, it was like when Kendrick released Damn after To Pimp a Butterfly. Like, you knew he was a thinker, but he's now showing you why he's a performer.
Gosh, honey, look, it's Tupac. I told you them homies didn't cap his ass.
It put him as the first undisputed king of the West Coast. And truth be told, while a lot of it has to do with how well Tupac was as a rapper, you can't forget the in-house production of Death Row Records, particularly Johnny J and Dr. Dre. If it wasn't for them creating California Love, we might have never had a Kendrick Lamar, or the one that we know of today. In an interview for the Grammys, Kendrick revealed that when he was about 8 years old, he saw Dr. Dre and Tupac filming the music video for California Love near his home, and that subconsciously pushed him to becoming a rapper.
And there they was, Dr. Dre and Tupac right there, and I think it was a white Bentley. Yep, they were shooting a video, and that moment right there, whether I know it or not, subconsciously, I think it, eventually branched me off to what I'm doing now. It was already designed in destiny.
After Tupac's death in 1996, other than a few notable exceptions like Too Short, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and E40, the West were slowly starting to lose their influence. During this era, Snoop Dogg became the new king of the West Coast, and he held that title until the mid-2000s, even becoming a cultural icon, making appearances in films, TV shows, COD Warzone, the WWE, and even becomes a meme like every year.
It's the B to the U to the double B, and the D to the O to the double G.
And I'm the J to the R to the O-O-O-C. I'm MC, motherfucker.
All we wanna do is smoke and fuck some hoes. Cause all we wanna do is smoke and fuck some hoes.
Guys, take it to the studio.
On the 12th day of Christmas, Snoop gave to me.
Go get him! What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? Yeah, baby! Snoop Splash! That's not official! Yes, it is! That is not an official count!
Whether you know him as a rapper, or as a smoke weed everyday guy, or the guy that does every fucking commercial, or even if you still refer to him as Snoop Lion, you can't deny the fact that he took the torch from Tupac and he kept it lit for a good time.
I went to the water, I was in the sky, me and Tupac was like 30 feet in the air.
You gotta remember that the East Coast also had some heavy hitters like Mobb Deep, DMX, Big Pun, Fat Joe, 50 Cent, the Wu-Tang Clan, and Jay-Z, while other forms of rap were slowly starting to pop up, such as the Atlanta scene with Outkast and T.I., the Detroit scene with D12, and Lil Wayne after he dropped The Block Is Hot. There was a burst of new talent all across the country, and the West were unfortunately unable to keep up. It wasn't until around 2006 when things started picking up for them again. Snoop had just released arguably two of his best albums in years, R&G and The Blue Carpet Treatment. But the crown slowly started shifting to a former male stripper who was taking over the game.
How old are you? 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 How old are you?
You just wanted to do what, homie? No, don't be sorry. What you just wanted to do what, man?
I thought we were just coming in for dinner.
Why are you going to the bathroom?
Bathroom, bro. You're not gonna get out of here unless you tell me what goes on in your mind, bro. Like, what's going on in your head, bro? And I know how you feeling, right?
What?
And I know how you feeling, right?
What do you mean by that?
I want to know, like, what's going on in your mind, homie?
Like, no, hey, you're not gonna be able to get out of here like that. You're gonna have to be honest. I mean, what goes on in your mind, bro? Because you know what you want. You know what type of time you on. So tell me what goes on in your mind, man.
15, 22-year-old 15, is that
So
fucked up?
what goes on in your mind, bro?
He said 18.
Yeah, the game. As much as he's left out right now, he carried the torch from Snoop Dogg after releasing the documentary, LAX, and the Red Album.
Well, at that time, the Game, he was the one that was
carrying the torch.
He was fucking carrying the torch. Game was fucking it up. He was getting it in. He was busting. He was battling niggas. He was keeping it gangster. He was taking niggas on tour.
Selling hella records,
But he was doing G shit, and we shouldn't forget that. A lot of times we run past him to get to that.
Game had a grand, he was holding the West Coast down.
That's why he was on stage when Kendrick was presented that.
Although he was widely respected in the West, everyone else thought he was a clown. He got into so many rap feuds that if I were to name them all, fuck it, 50 Cent and the rest of G-Unit, Ja Rule, Jay-Z, Joe Budden, Chris Brown, Meek Mill, Kehlani, Young Thug, and just recently, Kendrick Lamar.
See, you used to be a Crip, now you're a Blood. So I don't want no smoke with you. You got Bloods and Crips on your team. And you was a male stripper once before, so I don't want to fight you. I don't want no germs from you, nigga. And you know I'm in LA more than Arnold Schwarzenegger. He the governor, nigga. Yeah.
The Game is someone I could make an entire 3-hour-long documentary about, just based on all the stupid, dumb shit he's done. But when he was at the peak of his career between 2006 and 2011, there was no one in the West that was really outdoing him. And although he was carrying it, the years of it being a cultural powerhouse were not like it was back in the 90s. That was until around 2012, which became known as the DJ Mustard era.
It's popping. We on the set of Rack City and shit. We kind of brought LA, California Love, Tupac back, for the Rack City, based off little Grand Theft Auto scenes, whole rock star lifestyle, money, gold, all of that fly shit. Man.
It's a radio hits you all know. Rack City by Tyga, 2-1 by Tinashe, Who Do You Love by YG, and Post to Be by Omarion. This was a period of time when you heard Mustard on the Beat, ho, before every beat. He really took the torch from Dr. Dre and brought new West Coast rappers back into the mainstream. So it shouldn't come as a surprise as to why Kendrick Lamar asked DJ Mustard.
What does a Kendrick Mustard record sound like?
I could not tell you. I do not know. I don't even know what the outcome of that is going to be, but I know it's going to be greatness.
You sent him some beats already, or you?
Nah, he told me he want me to pull up on him.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull up, figure it out. It's going to be something hard.
Around 2011, Kendrick Lamar was not the mainstream rapper you know of right now. But he took everything his predecessors had given him from both coasts, combined them, and ran with it to the moon. He brought back the funk from the early 1980s, the aggression from the NWA, the smoothness of Snoop Dogg, and the socio-political and philosophical storytelling abilities of Tupac. He was even as short as Eazy-E. But regardless of all that, he still sounded fresh. He didn't exactly sound like a copy of any of those rappers. He took exactly what he knew from hip-hop and just made it his own thing.
Kendrick is like our West Coast Nas, so to speak, man. Lyrically amazing. I hope no one ever beefs or tries to attack him lyrically. You will definitely lose.
The biggest thing that's going on in hip-hop right now is the whole Kendrick, the control.
People get so caught up with trying to make beef when he's just making good music. He's making a point by saying what he's saying. He's juggling both coasts. His music is being played all over the New York radio stations, all over the West Coast radio stations. He's selling tons of records. He's selling out concerts. Shit, that's the king. When I was doing that, I proclaimed myself the king and nobody had a problem with it.
That's why this night was so important. It was a true culmination of everything West Coast hip-hop had achieved up until that point. The star of West Coast hip-hop was there, a member of the world-class wrecking crew, the NWA, the founder of Death Row Records and Aftermath Entertainment, and the guy who made those fucking trash-ass beats that broke on me back in 2013.
And I go to put them on, and snap. I knew this was gonna happen. Everybody warned me. Come on, that's not headphones. That's garbage. What is this crap, Dre? Monster? Come on. Yeah, they sound good, but because your fucking name is on it. You're gonna put a high price on it. Now I gotta deal with this. Cheap plastic. Broke like a twig. The other side's gonna break too. In fact, watch. That was too easy. Come on.
Domestic violence is never cool, guys. Don't beat or cheat on your wives. But if you make really good music, the media tends to play it off. Haha, there were only 2 cases of it happening. But really, don't beat your wives. Corrupt and Daz Dillinger were also in the crowd, 2 members of the Dogg Pound. They basically inspired your favorite rappers, including Kendrick Lamar and Eminem. Warren G was also there. He's responsible for dropping some of the best G-Funk albums in the 90s. Talib Kweli and Mos Def were also packed into the audience, a key duo in the conscious rap movement of the East Coast. The Black Hippies were also performing alongside him, and they became West Coast legends in their own right. And the crowd and venue were all in LA. Truly, this was something that only happens once in a blue moon. After a surprise performance by Snoop Dogg, he took over the mic and gave an impromptu speech. He gave his flowers over to Kendrick and passed over the torch, telling him he better run with it.
I'm sitting up there with Dr. Dre, right? Shout out to my nigga Dr. Dre up top. Look, I'm sitting up there with Dr. Dre, right? And we watching you rock. We watching you rock like a fucker, right? And we watching Game pass the torch to you. We watching all this love. It's a beautiful thing, my nigga. You great at what you do. You ain't good at what you do. You great at what you do. And the people out here, they represent and they showing you that. I'ma say this and I'ma mean this. Nigga, you got the torch, nigga. You better run with that. You better run with it, nigga, because it's yours.
This was the first documented time Kendrick allowed himself to cry. It was an emotional moment for everyone involved. You can see them giving him hugs, and the crowd were involved too, as they kept chanting,
Kendrick, what was it like tonight for you to be on stage with all that history happening with you?
Oh, man, it was one of the highlights of my scratch career, life, period. I mean, one of them beautiful moments, Can't help but think about the sad moments. I mean, the worst moments when you have parts like this. It was genuine for me, man. I had some tears come out, so that's real. I mean, that touched the heart for them people I looked up my whole life to come out and embrace me and support me.
It was truly a historical night of love, friendship, and a celebration of where the West Coast was heading. And that's when the game stepped in, handing over his crown to the new official King of the West Coast.
Hey yo, for y'all who in here and everybody with their camera phones out and don't understand that this is the mother nigga. Hey, face it, hey, nigga, this is the mother West Coast, and the mother torch has been passed. Ain't no mother hating Dr. Dre blood. He passed it to Snoop. Snoop passed it to Game. Pac resting in peace, so it's easy. J-Rock doing his thing, glasses, Nipsey. I hate when niggas say that the West Coast ain't popping. Nigga, we the West, nigga. We the motherfucking West. Understand that. And this nigga right here, this is my mother nigga. I told you it was coming, nigga. Before it was Kendrick Lamar, it was K-Dot. Before it was K-Dot, it was just a little nigga with a cool haircut that could rap his motherfucking ass off. But see, one thing me and this little nigga got in Compton, one thing we got in Compton is Compton, nigga. Period. I love you, nigga. Dre, I love you. Snoop, I love you. J-Rock, Schoolboy Q, motherfucking Roscoe, nigga. Corrupt Young Gotti, Dance ain't here right now. R.I.P. Nate Dogg. Nigga, this the West. And the most when I grab a mic, nigga, it's over, nigga. About as controversial as Pac was, and I still don't give a fuck. Nigga, I ride for the West Coast. And when the gang grab a mic, nigga gotta listen straight up. Kendrick, nigga, it's your world, nigga.
These were the two current faces of West Coast hip hop. It'd kind of be like if Luka and LeBron bestowed their powers onto Bronny Jr. and told him to lead the team. That's a pretty bad example, but you get the point. In a recent interview with Bootleg Kev, Snoop Dogg revealed that it was a very natural moment, that he just felt he was up next.
Because it was all a part of us seeing that he was the next in line.
Yeah.
That's how we do it on the West. We give it to who's accordingly running the show.
Yeah.
So Game, naturally, on stage with me, we felt like he the one. And it wasn't no discussion that we had 3 weeks ago. That shit happened right there on the spot.
Happened on the spot.
This nigga was fucking it up. We in the crowd watching this nigga fuck it up. I'm sitting with Dr. Dre in the crowd, watching this nigga fuck it up. And I'm like, I gotta go on stage with this nigga Dre. I'm sorry, I can't be in the crowd. So I go on stage, and he do another song, then another song, and they look over at me, and they hand me the mic. I'm like, man, fuck all this shit, nigga. This nigga's the king. And everybody agreed. And that nigga broke down in tears, and it was beautiful because I watch him now, and I see all the work he put in before he took the crown and after he got the crown. He is a true king.
I'll argue that this is the exact moment the West Coast was truly revived. I mean, he took that crown, he ran the West Coast as its king, and look at what he's accomplished. Good Kid, Mad City basically put Compton back on the map. To Pimp a Butterfly was used during protests. Damn won him a Pulitzer Prize. Mr. Morale made me cry. And GNX basically landed him an appearance at the Super Bowl. The first time a solo rapper has ever done so. On top of that, there's no one really doing it like him. I can't explain how good it feels to hear songs like Money Trees and Mad City when I'm at parties. Or I can't explain why it feels like I'm floating on clouds when I hear Die Hard and All the Stars. And I can't describe why Father Time and Keisha's song make me feel a little emotional. He makes art, and it can only be appreciated if you really take the time to listen to his music.
These lyrics are so beautiful. They speak to my soul, bro. Oh my God. This is a 10 out of 10, bro. This is a 10 out of 10.
His beef with Drake essentially broke the internet. He took on a Goliath and actually won, and now he's reaping all the rewards from it. Although some have called him the Tupac of our generation, I disagree. Kendrick Lamar is the Kendrick Lamar of our generation. I think he stands toe-to-toe with being called the greatest rapper of all time. It's like the LeBron-Michael Jordan conversation. If you say Michael Jordan, you're just lying to yourself.
Hey, Rook, better not be late.
Yo, are you serious? Come on, man.
Hey, clean up my driveway. It's a mess.
Yo, you're too old for this. What's going on, bruh? Come on.
We are following this breaking news this morning. Marcus Jordan, son of NBA legend Michael Jordan, arrested last night in Central Florida. Site Marcus was arrested in Maitland last night by Maitland police for DUI property damage, cocaine possession, and resisting arrest without violence.
Yo, you're too old for this. What's going on, bruh? Come on.
When Kendrick describes being passed the torch, he says, quote, "My tears is all on the internet. And now I look back and I love that moment. I love that happened because it showed me in real time expressing myself and seeing all the work that I put forth actually come to life in that moment." Personally, I think this was one of his proudest achievements. He got something that 22 Grammys wouldn't get you, that breaking 100 million streams wouldn't get you, that not even receiving a Pulitzer Prize would get you. He got the respect of the entire West Coast and was told they believe in him to drive their city. That's not something you get twice. Hell, this was the first time that's ever really happened. But that was the story of the exact moment Kendrick Lamar was passed the torch. It's one of those events that's overshadowed by his long list of other achievements. But I think it's important to remember how he got to the stage he's at now. The West Coast has had many distinguished eras, and while recording this video, I went through a lot of it. And there's this constant evolution of like different ideas and sounds that no one really captures better than Kendrick. I will say though, the Black Eyed Peas and Vince Staples do a really good job with it as well. When talking about why he's the greatest rapper alive, it's not because he talks about drugs, sex, and money. It's because he's able to do that, and he's able to make you jam along, but then he makes you question the very nature of why he's bringing it up. When he talks about drugs, it's about drug abuse hidden with having a good time. When it's about sex, he's like, damn, I cheated on my wife again. I am not a good person. Please learn from my mistakes. And when it comes to money, he's like, you need to start helping others in order to help yourself. Go hand a homeless man $1. Comparatively speaking, when Drake talks about drugs, he's like, kids, don't do it, or I'm gonna come get you, eh? When he talks about sex, it's like, I have lots of it, but I also have relationship problems. Just some minor issues. When he talks about money, it's like,
here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things?
Probably A minor.
Kendrick always has a message within his raps, and it's none of that wholesome, sophisticated bullshit J. Cole tries to pull. He's able to really tell it how it is. He'll paint the picture, and he'll put you inside of it. He'll make you want to dance, sing, cry. He'll make you want to call someone a certified pedo, but then he'll turn around and make you want to scream, will we ever see anyone surpass him? In a 2018 Billboard interview, when talking about passing the torch, Kendrick said, quote, I think the moment when I'm not having fun with it and getting into the studio and, going back to the Kobe similarities, maxing out on the full potential. That's when the fumbling happens. Before that even happens, I'd pass it down and give it to another young boy that has the same passion that can carry that throne. But right now, I feel good. I'll let y'all know when the final years is coming up, when I'm like, okay, this kid is it. He's from the city, he's it. He got it. The passing of the torch will go down as one of the most culturally significant hip-hop moments of all time. It's where a king was made. When we look back on him in 30 years, he'll have many career highlights, and we really don't know which one he'll be remembered for. But if one thing's for certain, he'll definitely be remembered as the King of the West Coast.
What would you say Dot means to the West Coast in general?
Everything, bro. I feel like this moment wouldn't have happened without somebody of that stature,
Everything. I mean, look where we're at. Look what we're doing.
Would they give him on stage, like the key to LA or something like that? Whoever was on that stage doing that for him, it didn't go in vain.
So, with all that being said, this has been Spree. And if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, or if you think you're better than me, fuck you, alright? But I also love you, and that's what all this has taught me. The love of West Coast hip-hop. I'm an East Coast guy myself, but you wouldn't believe me if I told you Shawnee Bin Laden was the greatest rapper of all time. So I'll give that title over to Kendrick for now.
Oh yeah.
Who's the greatest rapper of all time?
Greatest rapper of all time?
Kendrick Lamar.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna give it to Kendrick, man.
That nigga, man. Kendrick 5. Kendrick 5.
And Kendrick's
Kendrick's
extra
fire,
fire.
like
He extra fire.
Kendrick is fire.
Kendrick is at the very top tier of lyricists, not just of this generation, but of all time.
But as far as the substance in hip hop, Kendrick is bringing us back to that.
K-Dot is the man. He know he the man.
Kendrick is always gonna be a media dollar. And I told him, I said, because he has the ability to make you believe he had no idea this was gonna happen. Like I look at him and I go, nah, you can't do that to me.
Right. Like, I know.
You knew what you was working.
Right.
You worked on it and it paid off. Don't act like you didn't know it was gonna happen.
He's giving people like moments, like that verse was a moment to talk about. Are you listening to it now at this point in time?
Shut up, bitch!
Also, I just want to say, I do make other content besides Kendrick Lamar stuff, guys. Like, dude, I made a video about Danny Brown getting head on stage, which got removed, and I'm pretty sad about it now. But I also make videos about people lighting themselves up on fire for money. And if that doesn't intrigue you the least bit, then you must have seen some crazy shit. I'm also coming up on year 3 of the channel, and I finally feel like I figured out what type of content I want to make. So if you do want to support the channel, subscribe, and just watch another video. Like, it can't hurt, or it might. If you watch my very old ones, it'll probably kill you. That's all, folks. Peace.